In the Unresolved Problems segment tonight, Donald Trump's stance on illegal immigration.
Is there any part of the law that you might be able to change that would accommodate those people that contribute to society, have been law-abiding, have kids here? Would there be any room in your mind, or you, because I know you had a meeting this week with Hispanic leaders.
I did. I had a meeting with great people, great Hispanic leaders, and there certainly can be a softening because we're not looking to hurt people. We want people. We have some great people in this country. We have some great people in this country. But we're going to follow the laws of this country.
With Trump indicating his position may now be softening, will it help or harm his campaign? Joining us now to analyze from San Diego, syndicated columnist for the Washington Post, Ruben Navarrete, and from Chicago, Steve Cortes, a member of the Trump Campaign Hispanic Advisory Council. Ruben, your thoughts on this, let's call it a softening. I'm not sure what it is. Actually, I'm not even sure what he's proposing at the moment, but your thoughts on the fact that if he does, in fact, propose a softening, letting some stay, taking the criminals out, it's good idea or bad idea?
Eric, good to be with you again. I think it's a nonsensical idea. I don't think it's going to make a difference one way or another because the opinion of Latino voters is set in concrete with regard to Donald Trump. I think he's destined to get 20% of the Latino vote if he's lucky. He has so much offended and insulted this community. They're not going to forget it come Election Day, and they will not give him credit for
how did he offend the
softening.
Latino community?
Okay, in a couple different ways. First of all, right out of the gate, in his announcement 14 months ago in June, he called my Mexican grandfather a criminal and a rapist. He said that Mexico does not send its best people, it sends criminals and rapists. There was no mention in that phrase, go look it up.
I did look it up.
About illegal
immigrants. And in fact, what he says, and there are some good people too.
Eric. So my grandfather,
in that very first comment, he said,
and
there are some good people. Here's my point. It seems like he's damned if he does, damned if he doesn't. You didn't like the fact that he said, let's put a wall up, keep Mexicans out, and then now he says maybe we'll soften that, but that's not good either.
So I didn't take a position one way or another on the wall. My position has been basically if you want to build it, fine. People will build tunnels, they'll go buy ladders and get over the wall. That isn't really the issue. I don't think Latinos are terribly offended by the wall. They were offended by his characterization of criminals and rapists. They were also offended when he went after the Mexican judge who was U.S. born, called him a Mexican, basically said that you can't, because of your ethnicity, do your job correctly as a federal judge. That was deeply offensive to Latinos as well. His outreach, if you want to call it that, has been an outrage. He doesn't quite understand my community, and he keeps making simple mistakes.
All right, let me ask Steve, is there still a chance for Donald Trump? He's polling right around 22% of the Hispanic vote. Is there a chance for him to get higher, and does he need to?
Eric, there absolutely is, because he's speaking to their problems, their needs, and solutions to those issues. This is what I think is important regarding Hispanics. It's offensive. You know, Ruben talks about what's offensive to him. It's offensive to Hispanics who did it the right way, who followed the procedures, followed the law. And by the way, they're very cumbersome procedures. People like my father to come here legally and to become American citizens, to then say we're going to allow illegals to hop the line and cheat and get in front of you. And on top of that, you then have to compete with them in the labor market, because illegals tend to work for much lower wages because of their status. So it's patently unfair. So here's what Trump is doing, though, and here's the optimistic sign. We are going to secure the border. That's non-negotiable. There's going to be no amnesty. We're not going to reward illegals with citizenship. But, and I think this is very smart, this is real leadership and showing that he's a compassionate, realistic leader. He's saying, I want to listen to the Hispanic community. I'm fortunate to be one of the people that's advising him. And what do we do with the problem of illegals who are already here, many of whom have family members who are legal? So we want to be compassionate, but we still want to uphold the law. So we're not going to go to amnesty, but we can be sensible and compassionate about those who we deport and those who stay.
So how do you decide who gets to stay?
I think, well, number one, we have to be more aggressive about making sure that dangerous people are deported immediately. So that's step one. I think step two,
the dangerous people. Now what? What about the other whatever? 11
what I'm going to advise, what I will advise to him is this: is people with families are allowed to stay. We're not going to split up families. I would also advise that we have a longevity check. So if you've been here longer than 5 years, for instance, longer than 10 years, you get preference. But there still has to be a process, by the way. You're not just. There's no get out of jail free card. You're not just allowed to stay. There has to be a process, a penalty, a financial penalty. Okay. There might perhaps be a touchback.
Ruben, here's part of my problem. I'm listening to this. Listen, I've been talking about this for a long time. I don't know what the difference of what Steve just outlined versus amnesty. It sounds like a form of amnesty.
Bingo. Exactly right. Eric, I was thinking the same thing. What Steve said is just really a complete mess full of double talk, because on the one hand he says it's not going to be an amnesty, then he lays out something that I guarantee you, when it comes out, if it were to come out exactly as Steve said, would be labeled an amnesty by Jeff Sessions, by former Congressman Tom Tancredo, Steve King, and other immigration hardliners.
No,
they would
amnesty
call what
is
Steve said an
citizenship.
amnesty.
Amnesty is citizenship.
No. That is completely false.
Amnesty is citizenship. It is the right to vote. It is the right to be an American permanently.
That's nonsense. That's your definition. The definition of amnesty, as applied by the hardliners, the nativists, and the immigration restrictionists for years, I've been writing about this for 25 years, is if you are here in the country illegally and you're allowed to stay under any circumstances, ergo amnesty. That's the amnesty. So under what Steve talks about now, that would be an amnesty, and he would be hammered, Trump would be hammered by those hardliners. They'd call it an amnesty.
Okay, Steve, so you would propose to Mr. Trump would be an ability for the people, the illegals who've been here with families who've been working to stay, but no path to citizenship.
That is exactly correct. That's what I would advise him. And look, this is important, too. When you say that there's a softening, there's a potential softening. Mr. Trump has made no decisions yet. But again, he's doing what a real leader does. He's listening to input from important people. And he wants to reach out to Hispanics because there's such a large constituency in America. They matter. And by the way, they're not doing well. So even though Hispanics are giving their votes lately to the Democratic Party, they shouldn't, because the Democratic Party takes them for granted. And Hispanics have done very poorly under this recovery.
Right.
Hispanic household wealth is 1/10 of white household wealth.
Guys, big debate, and I'm sure it's going to continue on. Ruben and Steve, thank you very much.